Dear students, today we are going to learn history of novel. In this lecture, you will learn what is literature and branches of literature, new words and literary terms, the origin and history of novel, Indian English novel, what is novella, elements of novel and types of novel, literature and literary genres. It is very difficult to define the term literature. Many interpretations are made about the word literature, but all are incomplete. According to some people, literature is the mirror of life. Some people think that literature is a criticism of life. Whatever may be the controversy about the term literature, no doubt literature reflects life. So, millions of people throughout the world read literature to get joy, to understand the world, to understand life. Literary genres, types or classes of literature are called literary genres. See the given tree diagram. In the tree diagram, we see there are major four branches of literature: poetry, drama, novel, and short story. Poetry is of two types: imaginative and realistic poetry. Again, we classify drama into two types: comedy and tragedy. Literary genre novel has many types, such as realistic novel, picaresque novel, historical novel, psychological novel, gothic novel, stream of consciousness novel, etc. Short story is short in length. It has little scope, and short story is very close to human life, human incidents. Now, in this lecture, we are going to learn general information about the literary genre novel. Let's get started. New words and literary terms. Genre means type or category. Novel means a work of prose fiction longer than a novella. Novella means a short novel or a long short story. If we consider the length, novella is longer than a short story and a novel is longer than a novella. The periodical essay means essays or articles published daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly. Romance means fictional work based on legends, love, or adventure, usually involving imaginary characters. Tragedy means a story or a play having a sorrowful ending. Realism. Realism is a style in literature that focuses on depicting real life and everyday problems and activities. Satire, a literary work in which a person or an institution is criticized through humor, mockery, etc. Antagonist, a person who is opposed to the hero. Protagonist means the main character in a literary work, or we call hero. Amateur means unprofessional. Pageant means a colorful or impressive procession of people. Dazzling means shining. Speculative means unproven. Extraterrestrial means from outside the earth. The origin and history of novel. A novel is a long narrative fiction which describes intimate human experiences, normally in a prose form. The word novel is derived from the Italian word novella, meaning new. A novel narrates a story giving the details of time, place, nature, people, their mind, and their activities. A novel creates the picture of the society of that time. The earlier threads of novel can be found in Virgil's Eclogues, Malory's Morte d'Arthur, and Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales. Murasaki Shikibu's Tale of Genji has been considered as the world's first novel. The Industrial Revolution had given rise to the middle class in the 18th century. The newly educated middle class people were the readers of the periodical essays and novels. The early novels depicted the realistic picture of everyday life and problems of common people. Novel became a vice and an aspiration of the middle and lower classes in the 18th century. In those days, drama and poetry, the two literary genres, were fading away. The new genre, novel, took some features of drama and poetry and also added some features to it. Novel became the prominent form in the 18th century. Now, see the list of some popular novels in English. The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan, Robinson Crusoe and Moll Flanders by Daniel Defoe, Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift, Pamela or Virtue Rewarded by Samuel Richardson. Now see the list of some popular novelists. Henry Fielding, Lawrence Sterne, Tobias Smollett, Charles Dickens, Walter Scott, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Horace Walpole, Thomas Hardy, H.G. Wells, E.M. Foster, James Joyce, Joseph Conrad, George Orwell, D.H. Lawrence, William Golding. These are some popular novelists who wrote world famous novels in English. Now, see the list of some immigrant writers or immigrant novelists. The writer who migrated permanently in other countries are called immigrant writers. Salman Rushdie from India, V.S. Naipaul from Trinidad, and Kazuo Ishiguro from Japan. These are the immigrant novelists. Contribution of women writer in English novel. Many women novelists wrote popular novels. See the list of such novelists: Frances Burney, Anne Radcliffe, Mary Shelley, Jane Austen, Emily Bronte, Charlotte Bronte, Mary Ann Evans, Virginia Woolf, Agatha Christie, Harper Lee, Margaret Atwood, Toni Morrison, Alice Walker. These are world famous women novelists. Indian Scenario, Rajmohan's Wife by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay was the first novel in English written by an Indian. See the list of other Indian novelists: Mulkraj Anand, R.K. Narayan, Raja Rao, Anita Desai, Nayantara Sehgal, Arun Joshi, Manohar Malgaonkar, Amitav Ghosh, Vikram Seth, Arvind Adiga, Arundhati Roy, Kiran Desai, Kiran Nagarkar. Now these are the famous novelists from India. The tradition of novel has undergone a vital change since its birth, and it has undoubtedly very bright future. What is a novella? Novella is a type of prose fiction which is shorter than a full length novel and longer than a short story. It is well structured, short narrative, often satiric or realistic in tone. It usually focuses on one incident or issue with one or two main characters. Some world famous novellas in English: The Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, Belly Bud by Herman Melville, Death in Venice by Thomas Mann, Seize the Day by Saul Bellow, and Pearl by John Steinbeck. Elements of novel or novella. There are six essential elements of a novel or novella. See the given mind map. Theme, plot, character, setting, conflict, language or language style are the six elements of a novel. Let's learn these elements one by one. Theme. The central idea is called theme. It can be expressed in a nutshell. Theme is a philosophical statement or a truth which the writer put forth through the series of events in the story. It can be implicit or explicit. There can be a number of sub themes that portray human life. The theme helps to convey the message of the novel. Plot. Plot is the course of events or the story that makes up the theme. There should be conflict in the plot. Plot may be simple or complex. In a simple plot, there is only one plot. In a complex plot, there are two or more than two plots. There is one main plot and there is a subplot or subplots. Character. There are major and minor characters in the novel. The main character in the novel is called protagonist. Protagonist is in conflict with a character or a force. The force may be internal or external, which is known as antagonist or villain. Usually, a villain is a wicked person. Setting. Setting is a place where the story takes place. It also includes period, time, climate, lifestyle, etc. Conflict. The struggle between the opposite forces in the story is called conflict. Conflict in the story provides interest and curiosity about the plot. Language or language style. Words are the weapons of a writer. Usually, writers prefer figurative language. The language and the techniques used by the writer for the narration in a novel is known as the style. Usually, novels are written in the first person narrative or in the third person narrative. Types of novel. Novel is a dominant literary genre in the 21st century. It has many types. Let's learn some important types of it. Realistic novel. The realistic novel gives the effect of realism. Such novel is also called the novel of manner. Realistic novel depicts the real picture of society. For example, Adam Baird by George Eliot. Picaresque novel. The Spanish word picaro means a rogue. A picaresque novel narrates the adventures of the protagonist, who is an eccentric or a disreputable person. For example, Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. Historical novel. A historical novel is based on the historical events or historical facts. For example, War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Epistolary novel. The word epistolary is derived from the Latin word epistola, which means a letter. The writer presents the narrative through a series of letters or other documents. For example, Pamela or Virtue Rewarded by Samuel Richardson. Gothic novel. A Gothic novel includes terror, mystery, horror, supernatural elements, death, decay, haunted buildings, etc. For example, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Autobiographical novel. The novel based on the life of the author is called an autobiographical novel. It can be, it may be or may not be in the first person narrative. For example, David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. Allegorical novel or allegory. An allegory is a story that has more than one level of meanings. The surface meaning of such novel is different from the symbolic meaning of it. The symbolic meaning of an allegory may be political, religious, historical, or philosophical. For example, Animal Farm by George Orwell is a political allegory. Utopian or dystopian novel. Utopia is an imaginary society having the ideal qualities. Utopian novels represent their ideal state in the narration. For example, Francis Bacon's New Atlantis. Psychological novel. A psychological novel gives importance to the internal lives of the characters, that is, their thoughts, feelings, emotions, etc. For example, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Stream of consciousness novel. Stream of consciousness is a phrase coined by William James in his treatise Principles of Psychology that was published in 1890. It refers to the flow of thoughts in the minds of the characters. Details about the plot are presented to the readers as they enter in the mind of the character. For example, Ulysses by James Joyce. Balding's novel. A Balding novel deals with the psychological, spiritual, and moral growth of the main character from his or her childhood to adulthood. For example, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Detective fiction. Detective fiction is a fiction of crime in which a detective investigates a crime, usually a murder. For example, A Study in Scarlet by Arthur Conan Doyle. Science fiction. Science fiction is a speculative fiction dealing with imaginative concepts such as futuristic setting, futuristic science and technology, space travel, time travel, parallel universe, and extraterrestrial life. For example, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. In this lesson, we saw basic information about novel. In the next lesson, we will learn some examples of novel. Once again, read the lesson carefully and do the brainstorming activities. For more videos, subscribe my YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.